What was the incident in your high school? Story 1. A girl in her final year got pregnant and was hiding it from her parents. She was 18 at the time though. She went to the counselor, qualified clinical psychologist who was helping her through it. The counselor walked her through all of her options and did what she was supposed to do. The girl, I think possibly in denial, carried the baby to quite far along but then wanted out. She was also starving herself. Long story short, I also can't remember all the exact details. She apparently went to a dodgy clinic where she convinced them she was much earlier in the pregnancy, guessing they did no tests and they gave her abortions pills or something like that. Like I said, can't remember the exact deets, so don't crucify me. She started profusely bleeding in class the next day and was rushed to hospital. The baby survived for about 4 hours and then passed away. Obviously by this point her parents were there. Upon questioning, she named out school counselor and said that she had forced her to have an abortion. This whole case went to court. Our poor school counselor could not say anything or defend herself publicly until the case was done. We had reporters outside our school gates for ages. It all came out at the end that the girl had lied, and the counselor was completely innocent and had just done what she was supposed to do and had offered the girl all the information and advice for her to make an informed decision. I was amazed at how professional the counselor was and how she did everything by the book when it came to speaking about her client. Anyway, that was crazy. Story 2. A football player with the last name Parham got punished for some stuff and was no longer allowed to walk the stage for graduation. One day, a friend of his pulled up in a truck outside of the cafeteria during lunch, slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and proceeded to sprint inside. He streaked through half the cafeteria with a Spider-Man mask on and "Free Parham" painted on his bare ass. Staff tried to grab him and stop him, and despite him literally slipping on a piece of food and falling, he escaped valiantly as any hero should. Eventually, Parham was once again allowed to walk the stage, although I'm sure the stunt wasn't the only reason for it. Story 3. At the end of the day, there was a police car at the front of the school. Someone said they saw a kid get arrested when they went to the washroom. At the end of the day, a cop and the principal were standing at both back passenger windows talking to someone inside. We all just assumed that someone was getting arrested for selling drugs or something. The next day, my homeroom teacher told us between third and fourth period, the 2 afternoon periods in Canada, a former student who was about 20 years old blended in with students and snuck into the school hallways. He wandered through the hallways, stealing from unlocked lockers, and actually stole about 10 laptops from teachers' classrooms somehow. They ended up catching him at the Tim Hortons down the road. Not sure what's gonna happen to him, but someone said his mom was his getaway vehicle a couple blocks down the road. He just had to stop at Timmy's first. Only in Canada do people have to stop for a coffee and a donut mid-robbery. Story 4. 2 guys in my year decided to bring about 50 cabbages into school and start a cabbage fight in the science corridor. All hell broke loose and cabbage leaves everywhere. About 100 students joined in lol. It wasn't a case where 100 students were already there and waiting. The 2 guys just randomly started the cabbage fight at break time, and the students who were already in the corridor began to join in. Cabbages started to break. Other students heard the commotion and then joined in, picking up lumps of cabbage, so on and so forth. Story 5. Went to a Catholic high school. The chapel was on the basement level, very secluded, and always left unlocked so students could go pray. No one ever did. One day, a couple of students went in there to have sex on the altar. Turns out they ended up trying anal, and the girl shit all over the altar. The chapel was locked after that. We had a lot of other incidents, but that was the one we can laugh about. Story 6. End of senior year, some kid was caught on video having sex with his freshman girlfriend in an abandoned stairwell. Everyone saw the video and talked about it for weeks. I think he was charged with sexual assault and was not able to graduate. Story 7. I didn't transfer in until after it happened, but I had a classmate who was in the room when it happened. Our 9th grade year 19891990. One of the guys in the theater or drama class had been threatening suicide and to hurt friends and classmates. She and all her friends went to the teachers and principal, but were told they could do nothing because he had no history and therefore, he had to do something first. He did. Walked in mid-class, took the entire room including my friend and her friends who had reported his threats hostage, brandished the gun around repeatedly, then shot one of their mutual friends who was trying to talk him down. Kid lost his ear, but not his life, thankfully. She was still giving legal depositions to years later when I met her, which is how I heard the story. Story 8. Guy takes massive shit off the top floor of a massive stairwell. Same stairwell. Someone drops a pressurized can of soda, cracking open a teacher's skull. Someone brought in a decommissioned WW1 authentic stick grenade. The entire school was evacuated onto one yard for 4 hours while the bomb squad were on their way. Our school's counselor who took kids out of lessons to help with low self-esteem committed suicide. That one's a bit sad tbh. Drama teacher got arrested for convincing two 14-year-old students to have sex while he watched, and he still works there. And a music teacher got sacked for coming in drunk. Twice. Story 9. Some boys in the saxophone section of marching band made a Christmas card featuring them nude except for Santa hats and their sax covering their sax. They distributed to the whole band, which at our school was a pretty large number of people. School tried to confiscate them for being lewd, but of course they couldn't get them all. Besides, people had camera phones and Facebook. Story 10. Two girls were fighting over a boy. They were in the bathroom, in the same stall. While they were fighting, one of the girls took out a pair of scissors and stabbed the other in the eye. The girl who stabbed her was expelled, and the other girl turned out to be just fine and went back to school like everything was normal. The creepy part was, my classroom was the closest one to the bathroom, and we didn't hear anything. We just saw the cops. It creeps me out to think it happened a couple feet away from me. Story 11. One time this kid I was friends with brought this hot sauce called Da Bomb 1, 5 million Scoville units, hotter than hell to high school, and let a bunch of kids try it during lunch. I mean at least 30 kids. Some kids really started freaking out because that shit is ridiculously hot, like you're supposed to add 1 or 2 drops to a big batch of chili to make it spicy. Some were trying to show off and took a swig of it and ended up vomiting everywhere from the heat or panic. Multiple kids had to go to the nurse and be sent home because they way overdid it, although I think most just really had no idea what a Scoville unit was or that they made hot sauce that was that ridiculously hot. It was chaos. I tried it as well, a dime-size amount, and I couldn't concentrate on anything but chugging milk. And I'm really good with spicy foods. Finally, the principal came on the intercom and said, "Whoever brought the hot sauce, please, just stop." My friend got into some pretty big trouble for that one. Story 12. Someone called in a bomb threat to my middle school and elementary school. Instead of evacuating both buildings, we were in lockdown for 3 hours, and they condensed all of us in the middle school. We later evacuated to the high school, only, like 300 feet away, and were stuck there for hours because our parents couldn't get to us. All of our phones were taken because they didn't want us giving information, so there were like 700 white moms in Suburban simultaneously having a heart attack trying to get to the school. We learned later they called this into almost every school in the area. There was a robbery at a Bank of America while the cops were preoccupied. Story 13. Another school in the district had a student come to an assembly dressed in a KKK hood. So we all had to have a huge assembly. And there were a bunch of posters around school about what to do if you feel discriminated against. Story 14. We had an in-building sub who would be the first sub called and usually worked every day at the school. A few months into school, he was arrested and fired because it turned out he was getting 2 students to blow him after school. They were 14. He was caught because one of the girls' parents had installed some program on their computer and found the AIM chats. He ended up killing himself before going to jail. Story 15. There had been rumors since my freshman year about the assistant principal taking a certain special interest in a few of the girls. Almost everyone wrote it off as high school kids starting stupid rumors. Until my senior year, when 4 police officers came in after school and walked him out in cuffs in front of a few hundred students watching a basketball game against another school. He was fucking one of the girls in my grade and selling her oxycodone in the hallways. Got 10 years. Story 16. A guy went into the locker room during gym class and shit into another guy's backpack. Edit. Since so many people asked, This happened in a German school in 2014 or 2015. The guy didn't face any consequences, although almost everyone knew who did it. Our principal pretty much was like, yeah, let's not talk about this. The story also spread like a wildfire in our town, and I had friends from different schools text me about it before I even came home that day. Story 17. Senior year, we received our yearbooks the week of graduation, and to our surprise, the full-page action shot for men's soccer showcased our player jumping up and lifting one leg to trap and control the ball. Unfortunately, he forgot to wear underwear for that game, and the tip of his wiener was fully visible, sticking out of the bottom of his shorts. Our school had over 4,000 students, and we were required to bring our yearbook into security to have the dick sharpied over, or we would not be able to walk at graduation. Story 18. My grade lost 3 students. Sophomore year, a boy was in the passenger side of a truck leaving a party and was T-boned by a drunk driver and died. Junior year, within days of each other, a boy jumped out of the back of the bus in an attempt to skip school and go to the beach. He died days later in the hospital. A few guys skipped school to go dirt biking. One of the guys crashed without a helmet and died in his best friend's arms. The entire time I was in high school, only 3 students at our school died. All were in my grade level. I cried watching their parents accept their diplomas at graduation. Story 19. It was the last day for the senior class. There were only 2 significant pranks that day. The principal's office was filled with balloons and glitter, and the main hallway entrance was saran wrapped. About an hour before the day ended, the principal came over the loudspeaker and said that anyone caught participating in a prank would not walk at the graduation ceremony. About a minute after he said this, the fire alarm went off. A guy who was near the principal said that he got angry and said out loud, "Someone's not walking," before storming off. An entire wing of the school was hazy, and smoke was pouring out of the classroom. Turns out the science teacher was doing a laser experiment for his class and created too much smoke with a smoke machine. Story 20. At my high school, seniors had to do a senior project. Can be anything really. Just plan it out and follow through. A very popular and well-liked senior made an end-of-day announcement that tomorrow morning he'd be in the student parking lot working on it and needs as many other folks there as possible. The next day he drives into the student parking lot, sets up a tripod and a camera. A large crowd gathered round, just about 30 minutes before the first bell. He hit record. Thanks everyone for showing. Then he reached into his car, pulled out a handgun, and killed himself before anyone could react. No one knows why. He was a great guy with a bright future. Never know what struggles others are going through. I think about it frequently and take that into consideration to try and be nice to others with random acts of kindness. That's all for now. Thanks for listening to Digital Apathy.